tonight's talk is going to be a little bit different because, well, it's been a little bit tricky to put together because we've had a couple of different speakers have to drop out on us for various reasons, various good reasons, I should say. I should give them their fair shake. But basically what we've got tonight is we've got two fantastic speakers. The first one is Behan of both Botanical Inks and Bristol Cloth. And she is going to be talking about both of those, but she doesn't have any slides. So I'm just going to interview her, basically. I'm going to put my questions to her, and if you've got any questions you want me to put to her during that, then stick them in the chat box. It's probably the best thing to do. Keep yourself muted is probably safer, I've found, in these sorts of situations. But I will get the chat box up now, and if you want to stick anything in there, please do, and I'll ask it out if it sounds interesting. And then later, a little bit later, we're going to be joined by Amelia from Sustainable Fashion Week, and we're going to do much the same thing, where I'm going to ask her a few questions about that little project and what they hope to achieve. And then at the end, we're all going to come together and we're going to have a bit of a Q&A. And so if there's any last leftover questions, you know, good ones, but that you just didn't get around to asking yet, stick them in the chat again and we'll let the two women answer them together. Just to give a bit of context for the subject before we bring our speakers in, I've been sent some lovely facts that one of our committee members, Grant, has put together, just to say the impact really of the fashion industry, because it's not one that we really talk about all that much when we talk about transport and heating and things like that, but it does have a pretty significant impact. So by 2030, global clothing consumption is projected to rise by 63%, from 62 million tons to 102 million tons. That's equivalent to more than 500 billion extra t-shirts. So we are consuming a lot of clothes, and it's projected to keep going up. The average person buys 60% more items of clothing than they did just 15 years ago, and keeps them for about half as long. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about fast fashion. The idea of you buy a piece of clothing, you wear it once, and then you never look at it again, basically. Among 71% of retailers in the UK, 77% believe there is a likelihood of modern slavery, brackets forced labour, occurring at some stage in their supply chains. This is what I'm talking about. When you talk about these things, it's hard to focus entirely on the green issues because the other issues are slavery. And it's best not to gloss over that too hard. 77%. Oh my God. Okay, moving on. Can you tell I'm reading these for the first time? And I'm just like, ah! Approximately 80% of workers in the global garment industry are women aged 18 to 35, but only 12.5% of clothing companies have a female CEO. Again, so many issues related to the fashion industry, which are not strictly green issues, but still things very much worth keeping in mind. At its current rate, the fashion industry is projected to use 35% more land to grow fibres by 2030. That's an extra 115 million hectares of land that could otherwise be used to grow food, or be left alone to protect biodiversity, or grow trees, or do, frankly, anything else with. And I know that growing fibres for clothing is definitely something that Babs is going to have some thoughts on. And Nicola has put a link in the chat if you feel like checking that out. I'm now going to bring up, if I can find the right bit, this. So this is the Fashion Manifesto, put together by fashionrevolution.org, and it's 10 points. Which Grant thought I should read out. So, fashion provides dignified work from conception, creation to catwalk. It does not enslave, endanger, exploit, overwork, harass, abuse, or discriminate against anyone. Fashion liberates worker and wearer and empowers everyone to stand up for their rights. So this is, I think, aspirational rather than the current situation we have where everything is made by slaves. Not everything, you know, I'm exaggerating. Yeah, that's a good point, Nicola. We'll bring that up in a bit. Number two is that fashion just going to say should. Fashion should provide fair and equal pay. It enriches the livelihood of everyone working across the industry, from farm to shop floor. Fashion lifts people out of poverty, creates thriving societies, and fills aspirations. Number 3, fashion gives people a voice, making it possible to speak up without fear, join together in unity without repression, and negotiate for better conditions at work and across communities. Anyone who was at the last talk that Clifton Climate Action did on fashion will remember that our speaker that night kept bringing up this factory in Bangladesh that collapsed. You may remember the story. It was a few years ago now. But yeah, better working conditions for the people making our garments, incredibly important issue. Fashion respects culture and heritage. It fosters, celebrates, and rewards skills and craftsmanship. It recognizes creativity as its strongest asset. Fashion never appropriates without giving due credit or steals without permission. Fashion honors the artisan. Nice. Fashion stands for solidarity, inclusiveness, and democracy, regardless of race, class, gender, age, shape, or ability. It champions diversity as crucial for success. Fashion conserves and restores the environment. It does not deplete precious resources, degrade our soil, pollute our air and water, or harm our health. Fashion protects the welfare of all living things and safeguards our diverse ecosystems. So, especially relevant to what we want to talk about tonight. Fashion never unnecessarily destroys or discards, but mindfully redesigns and recuperates in a circular way. Fashion is repaired, reused, recycled, and upcycled. Our wardrobes and landfills do not overflow with clothes that are coveted, but not cherished, bought, but not kept. So yeah, we're talking there about the circular economy. We've got a page on both websites on sharing, repairing, and recycling. The idea that throwing something away when you get bored of it is kind of the worst option you have. There's always somebody else who might appreciate it, or something else interesting that you might be able to do with that same garment in this case, or whatever else you've got, really. It's a really good website with a lot of good points, that bit. Fashion is transparent and accountable. Fashion embraces clarity and does not hide behind complexity, nor rely upon trade secrets to derive value. Anyone, anywhere can find out how, where, by whom, and under what conditions their clothing is made. So it's all well and good companies telling us they're incredibly ethical and taking their workers' rights very seriously, but if they can't show it, then what use is that? Fashion measures success by more than just sales and profits. Fashion conserves and restores the environment and values people over growth and profit. Yes, please. Fashion lives to express, delight, reflect, protest, comfort, commiserate, and share. Fashion never subjugates, denigrates, degrades, marginalizes, or compromises. Fashion celebrates life. So yeah, those are some really interesting points. This whole website, fashionrevolution.org, is definitely worth checking out if that sounds interesting to you. But I think that's probably enough of just me talking. I'll bring in Babs now, if you're ready, Babs. Let me get this off the screen. What should we do? Yeah, I'll just stop sharing so that I can go into speaker view. There we go. And I might just mute Dan. There we go. Okay. So yeah, thank you for coming along, Babs. I know you're very busy at the moment. We really appreciate it. So give us a bit of a background on you. What got you involved with sustainable fabrics and inks and things?
Thanks so much for having me. What got me into all this? Well, I originally studied surface design, which is kind of illustration and printmaking on all kinds of different surfaces. And through that time doing this course at university, I really saw how toxic the materials were that were being used. They're mainly petrochemical derived plastic based, and a lot of chemical effluents kind of going down the sink, a lot of waste going in the bin, and no conversation about sustainability or minimizing waste, or trying to use plant-based materials, anything like this. And I mean, at the time when I was at university, there was no conversation about sustainability. It wasn't really a word that was being used. And it was only through spending time actually traveling in India after university that I really got to see firsthand some more soil to soil cottage industry type systems, where you have family run businesses who specialize in a craftsmanship such as block printing with vegetable dyes. And you know, this is a tradition that's been passed on through the family for many generations. Really skilled work, beautiful artisan craft, and all the materials being used were coming from the local region. So a particular place I have in mind, somewhere where I went and studied, was this vegetable dye block printers in Jaipur, and they were bringing in vegetable inks that are locally sourced, and Indian cottons, Indian silks, Indian khadi paper, which is made from recycling the offcuts of the cotton industry, and all of this being used in this small business in a very handmade way, with inks being mixed by hand and blocks being carved by hand and then hand printed, and the results are just absolutely stunning. You know, so exquisite in their unique prints. There's no kind of you know, like with screen printing, you have just a uniform print that's over and over again. With the block printing, because each print is slightly different, it gives this character and beauty that, you know, you would more often see in nature rather than in a human-made environment. And I find it really charming, and this kind of experience really inspired me to develop similar systems in the UK later on. Yeah.
Great. Sorry, yeah, so I just that leads us in really nicely. I just want to ask, so you've got Botanical inks and Bristol Cloth. So can you just explain what the two of them do and how they work together?
Sure, yeah. So Botanical Inks is a non-toxic natural dye studio based in Bristol, down in Old Market. And it's a place where I do natural dye services for brands and designers, and also produce the Bristol Cloth, which is my own in-house product. And I've written a book also called Botanical Inks, which is through Quadrille Books, and I've been selling that for the last couple of years, along with a range of other products. This year my business has really turned into a shop, so I've been selling a lot of things for people to do their own DIY natural dyeing projects. So I sell undyed fabrics and yarns and all of the dyes and recipes and instructions and everything in the book. And then I teach a lot. I teach a lot of workshops in my space pre this year. Now I teach a lot online. So Botanical Inks is a kind of educational and inspirational being, I guess, and also services. So yeah, doing the dye services. And so the Bristol Cloth is really a way of demonstrating what's possible with all of the processes and materials that I use at Botanical Inks. It's a locally sourced, regeneratively farmed lamb's wool, which comes from Fernhill Farm in the Mendips. And it's dyed with organic natural dyes by myself. And then it's woven in the Bristol Weaving Mill, which is just over the road from my studio. And so Bristol Cloth is, in its first production, it's 200 meters of cloth that's available in two qualities. One is soft and fluffy, it's been cold washed, and that's for making scarves. And then the other quality is also cold washed, but then hot pressed, so it's suitable for tailoring. And the first 200 meters I made was all pre-sold through a crowdfunder. So we sold all of this cloth for people to make into their own accessories and garments, and then also sold it as scarves and blanket scarves and throws, and then sewn pieces through collaborating with local tailors, so different garments and bags and purses and things. And,
yeah. Our last talk 2 weeks ago was about green gifts ideas, things people can get each other for Christmas. And so it sounds like you've got a lot of different options from, are you going to be starting up the courses and things again in the new year? I mean, presumably you won't be able to do much actually in the store, but the online courses, how are they?
Yeah, I'll be doing some more courses over the coming months. I really enjoy teaching bundle dyeing with local plants and making inks and paints that you can do drawing and painting and writing with. So I'll probably have a few of those workshops. But I also have a lot of recorded workshops which are on my website that you can get anytime. But it's nice to kind of travel through the year and work with the different plants available throughout the seasons and craft with those.
Yeah, so it's an idea. Do you want to just drop your websites? Just tell us where people can find out more.
Sure. So yeah, there's botanicalinks.com and then bristolcloth.co.uk.
Gorgeous. And just more generally, so I know we talked earlier and you were saying about how you had suits tailored out of your cloth and all sorts of other garments and things. But when you're buying, first of all, how many clothes do you buy? How much clothing do you buy personally in a typical month, let's say?
None.
None at all.
Yeah, all I bought this year is I bought a pair of denim shorts in the summer. I think that was it.
And so
I'm constantly re-dyeing things when I get bored of them, so that transforms them into new pieces of clothing. It's amazing how different they look when they're a different color.
Yeah, tell us about that. So when you get bored of a piece of clothing, what's your first instinct? Chop it up, dye it, put a new stencil on it? What's your favorite route to go?
Well, at the moment, because I'm doing a lot of dye services for other brands and companies, there's always a lot of, it's called the exhaust. There's a lot of dye left in the dye pot after you finish a production. So for me, it's like this free color that's like the byproduct of my work and, you know, like a free gift. So I have lots of bowls all around my studio and I soak up the last of the unused color to upcycle clothing I have. And I love to just piece dye things so they just take the color on all over, or I'll scrunch dye them, scrunch them all up and chuck them in, and then it's a surprise how they come out. You get kind of mottled, kind of classic tie-dye looking styles.
Okay.
Or shibori, where I kind of fold them up quite neatly and tie them with string and blocks and get kind of precision square and geometrical patterns on them.
Do you get a lot of requests from friends?
I think they've given up asking.
Why? Because you charge too much? Or?
Well, that's one thing, but no, I'm just so busy. I just don't have time. I mean, I rarely have time to dye my own things. It's just like a rare occurrence that I have a bit of space at the moment.
Okay. Someone's asked in the chat whether you're wearing Bristol cloth right now.
Yes, I am. This is the second edition. So the first edition was in 2018, and that was dyed with madder and weld, which are traditional heritage British dye plants. Amazing. And then last year we did the second production of another 200 meters, this time mostly scarves and blanket scarves. And this is exactly the same design, but different colors. So there's a white and a dark brown, which are the natural fleece colors. And then there's a mustard yellow pinstripe going through it, which is made with dyer's mulberry, which is a really beautiful and bright, clear yellow. And it's exciting because yellow is one of the hardest colors to dye with in terms of it not being so color fast. It will often fade very quickly, but with dyer's mulberry, it's a really good yellow and it really keeps the color. So great. For me, that's exciting.
Okay, thanks very much, Babs. I think if you're okay to stick around, we'll move on to our second speaker and then we'll get you back involved and we'll do a more general Q&A if anyone's still got more questions for us. So Amelia, are you ready?
Hello, hi.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us as well. So Amelia is from Sustainable Fashion Week, which is in April.
It is, yes. Yeah.
Yes. So do you want to just talk to us a little bit about, yes, fingers crossed we actually managed to have an April. Do you want to just talk to us a little bit about what Sustainable Fashion Week is and what it hopes to achieve?
Yes. Lovely to sort of half meet you all. I can't see many faces, but nice to meet Babs as well, who's was going to be part of our event this April before it was postponed. So nice to see your face. So we basically, I've worked in sustainability for most of my career in different sectors, and then moved into fashion about started working on a project about 2.5 years ago. Excuse me. That project was running an online sustainable fashion women's wear platform, wanting just a retail platform, nothing too exciting. But as part of that, I was quite uncomfortable with pushing sales of garments that I feel like they're priced pretty inaccessibly to a broad consumer audience, and that's no bad thing, because the prices are exactly what they should be for those products. But I was just sort of interested in how we can broaden the idea of sustainability in fashion, so it wasn't just concentrated on producing, still having that focus on new items, but just tweaking those items to make them more sustainable. So I wanted to explore how the narrative of sustainability in fashion can be more accessible, more inclusive, and more relevant to people from different backgrounds, with different incomes, different lifestyles, whatever, etc. And so Sustainable Fashion Week was sort of due to be the antithesis of London Fashion Week, where instead of looking at the next round of trends, which will then generate that endless cycle of new production as the trends filter down onto the high street, and to be the opposite of that. So basically to try and go into the community and sort of invite the community to be part of an event which was very much about sharing knowledge, sharing skills, and exploring those different ways of being sustainable in our relationship with clothing that wasn't necessarily about buying a new product. And so this event obviously was going to happen April this year. It would have been the best time to start it off, and we would, as part of it, we were going to gather information about barriers to participation, try and get some information from people attending on what might be stopping them from being more sustainable in their relationship with clothing. And but we've had to postpone. We postponed until autumn, and then postponed again until April next year. And fingers blinking crossed it happens in April next year, because otherwise I'm going to be so frustrated. But what we're doing now is sort of trying to, even though we haven't had our first event, we're trying to increase the size, increase the breadth, increase our activity in the community, so that what we have planned for next year is bigger, slightly more comprehensive, and has more people involved.
And so what kind of events are you planning? Are you having catwalk shows and actual fashion events? I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, it's a good question, because I actually should have said that. That's the most important thing, which is we're going to have a hub for 2 days of the event, which will be sort of informative panel discussions. We've got 6 like meta themes, and that'll be sort of where people can come and get information. That's in the M Shed. And alongside those panel discussions, we'll have a marketplace with different brands and makers and etc. selling their products. But then the bit which excites me much more is that'll be what we program. That's our content as a team. But then we're going to go out into the Bristol community and beyond, hopefully, and invite people to host their own little mini event, engaging with their community groups or their peer groups. And we'll curate a program based around those mini events with our content slipped in as well. So those mini events can be anything. So we are thinking of maybe doing a catwalk show, but the emphasis will be much more on skills workshops, clothes swaps, dyeing with natural products, which is what Bab will do as part of it, and mending circles. It could be anything that empowers, inspires, or skills people to have a more sustainable relationship with clothing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So what's been the reaction since you announced the first one that was going to happen? How have people reacted to the idea of a sustainable fashion week?
Well, in some ways it was good, and in some ways it was frustrating, but just prior to our launch we postponed, so we were just about to kind of go bang, and then we were like, actually it's better to not launch, and then, you know, a week later sort of take the event off the table. So we haven't, the reaction we've had so far has been more within our community, so the people that we're asking to get involved, and in terms of building a sort of a responsive audience, we're still in the process of doing that at the moment. So within the people that we would want to contribute and participate, the reaction's been overwhelmingly positive. And I think a lot of people, there's a real connection between people working in the industry in Bristol. And I think something which just amplifies their existing connections and relationships, I think is quite welcome. So it's been a really positive reaction so far, and hopefully we'll get a reaction similar to that from the consumers themselves.
That's great. I asked Babs this, so I'm going to ask it to you as well, just to be even-handed. When was the last time you bought a new piece of clothing?
It was, to be honest, it's very recent, because when I started my online platform, I stopped buying anything new because I wanted to absolutely, I was already pretty good in terms of my living my values, but I wanted to be very, very puritanical about it. So, and that meant that I was just running out of clothes quite quickly, because I wear everything to death. So what did I buy? Let me have a think. I bought, the first thing that comes to mind was I bought a recycled wool fibre coat from Lucy and Yak, which was at the end of last winter. And
Okay.
I bought a pair of organic trousers about 3 months ago from People Tree, and I think that's pretty much it for this year.
Okay, so when you do buy new things, you are careful to buy from very sustainable retailers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be very it wouldn't be great if I wasn't I wasn't representing my own values in a practical way. Fair point. Yeah. But I think,
sorry, there's a little bit of a delay. Please, I mean, if you've got suggestions for sort of places people can go, if they're not already familiar with them, for sustainable clothing, organic, and things like that, is it mostly online, or are there retail shops in particular that you would recommend for people?
I think there's a much broader selection online, because the brands themselves, a lot of them won't have shop fronts, or if they do, they might have one or two across the country. And I can just see as questions just popped up. I think there are a few rating apps, and I think Good On You is quite good for sort of getting some kind of measure about whether a brand is good or not. But I think so. What we're trying to promote in Sustainable Fashion Week is it's not just about buying that new product. You can go online and just Google sustainable clothing, and lots of brands will pop up. You know, they come up quite quickly. They're not too hard to find, the ones that are quite established and have been around for a while. But now there's just new ways of engaging with sustainability through clothing popping up all the time. So there are rental sites, so you can Google websites where you can rent clothing. There are new sites where you can swap clothing, so it's not, you don't just have to sell what you want to get rid of, but you can also swap it for someone else's clothing, so essentially like an online clothes swap. And of course, I mean, the best thing to do from the outset is to love and mend and keep alive what you've already got in the wardrobe.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. Tell you what, I'm going to save that question for when we bring Babs back in. I just want quickly to bring this up, which is our monthly challenge. So Clifton Climate Action have been doing monthly challenges. This month was our first month doing it, and by coincidence, or probably good planning on the part of my colleagues, this month was all about clothing. And so some of the challenges that we've got, the idea, some of these, for some of us, will be incredibly easy. We'll be doing them automatically already. But some of them might be a bit more challenging or a bit more outside the box that you might not have thought of. So I just wanted to run through some of these in case there's anyone here who thinks they're already doing everything they could to shop for as sustainable clothing as possible. So yeah, go the month without buying any newly made items of clothing, including accessories. It sounds like Amelia is doing that one already. Babs hasn't bought anything since summer. God, I should probably buy some clothes of some description, but I'm doing fine without it. So yep, I can tick that one off. Start using the 30 wears test and don't buy any new clothes that you don't think you'll wear at least 30 times. So that's just a good piece of advice going forward. If you pick something up and you think, I'll wear it for Paul's party on Tuesday, but I'll never wear it again, consider getting an alternative. Paul's not going to mind. Make your clothes last longer by fixing those that need repairs. If you don't know how, learn how to do it. YouTube, or task swap with someone who knows. So yeah, this is another good one. My girlfriend recently tried to stitch up a torn pair of pajama trousers. I ripped them again even worse really soon afterwards, but at least we tried, and I'm probably going to keep wearing them even with a rip, because again, sustainable. Oh God. Go through your wardrobe for clothes you no longer want and get them back into the resource stream. Swap them, donate them, or put them out for recycling. So yeah, there are loads of ways. Obviously, with all the charity shops closed at the moment, it's a lot more difficult. Because in Clifton and on Gloucester Road, just off Bishopston, there's so many fantastic charity shops that I'm sure everyone here is already very familiar with. Yeah, exactly. Get them back into the resource streams, get them out of the cupboard and do something useful with them. Research, look at the online shops, including charity shops, offering high quality second-hand clothing online and at sustainable retailers, so that the next time you need something, you'll be ready with some good sources. So yeah, we've talked a little bit about online shops and the power that they can imbue you with. Definitely check those out. Watch The True Cost, a 2015 film exploring the true impact of fashion on people and planet, available on Amazon and Netflix, or by digital download, or the 2019 BBC documentary, The Price of Fast Fashion. So even if you think that you're doing all of those actions already, you might not have watched both of those. So that might be a good idea. Campaign, sign the Fashion Revolution Manifesto. We talked about that at the beginning. Fashion Manifesto are the big player in trying to green fashion in the UK. Ask 5 friends to sign the Fashion Revolution Manifesto too, and tell your friends and family about the challenges you're taking this month and ask them to join in. So I think that's a fantastic little list of challenges. I hope you all will try at least one of them. And yeah, I hope then it becomes just a part of your normal life, and then it stops feeling like a weird challenge you're doing just because some people with a fixation on the color orange told you to give it a go. That's all we are, really. We just really like orange. So yes, let's go out of this and get you back up, and let's bring both Babs and Amelia in and have a look at some questions in the chat. I'll start from the top because I got a question sent to me in a little private message. This is a question about the synthetic material elastin. It's a synthetic but much used in clothing marketed as organic. Why is so much used when it seems to actually reduce the lifetime of the garment? I don't know if that's too technical a question, but does anyone want to, Babs or Amelia, do you want to try and have a go at that one?
Yeah, but I mean, it's often used in clothing because it gives stretch, and that helps clothes to bounce back after they've been worn. And people like stretchy, skin-tight clothing. I don't know that it really improves the quality of the fabric. I wouldn't say that it does. It's quite cheap and nasty, really. It's a really important thing to look at, and I think, you know, in terms of this list of how to be more sustainable in the way that we're buying clothes and dressing, for me, the most important thing really is understanding the composition of our clothing. You know, not just how they made, but what are they made with, and what's going to happen to that at the end of its useful life cycle. So for me, I only want to invest in things and wear things against my skin that I know is made from natural materials and dyed with natural dyes, because if it isn't, then it's coming from synthetic sources, which are generally petrochemical derived. They're byproducts of the oil industry, which is pretty gross if you think about it. and they're not biodegradable, and they're going to end up in landfill and degrading into our water systems and causing huge problems in like all the water systems, soil systems, the food that we eat, everything. Like, it's a really vast and overwhelming problem. But I think to really be consciously trying to take plastic clothing and plastic colour out of our fashion consuming habits is really important.
Yeah, great answer. Good. So we talked a little bit about goodonyou.eco, which is a website for sort of getting an idea of, sorry, Amelia, you recognize the name. Can you just explain a little bit about what that is again?
Yeah, it's an app, I believe, where you can type in the brand that you want to sort of investigate, and it will give you a rating based on, I think, a variety of factors. I have to hold my hands up and say I haven't used it much, just because I know the brands that I'm comfortable from buying from if I'm buying new. So I go straight there, and I know the ones I want to avoid. So I don't need to. That sounds like a stupid thing to say, but I don't feel like I need to use it because I don't branch out too much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit kind of stuck in my ways. But I think it is. I think, and I wish I could remember the other names, but I think there are a couple of platforms where you can get a measure of a brand's ethics or sort of sustainability ratings. I think Ethical Consumer is another really good one. I think their ratings are really thorough. But ultimately, yeah, it's a way of going, Topshop gets, let's say, 2 out of 5 stars, let's say, and H&M might get 3 out of 5 stars because they've got a better sort of transparency model, or they might be doing slightly more in terms of their fabric. So it just gives you that way of kind of making some kind of informed choice about which brands you want to buy from if you're going to buy new.
Great. Yeah, and just to shout out a few brands, Becky, who I think might be a personal stylist I met a while ago. Becky, I don't know if you are the Becky I'm thinking of, but she's recommended People Tree, Komodo, Bibico, I assume that's how that's pronounced, Movement Boutique, oh, now you're really testing me, Rapa Nui, Thorpe, but most of all, I prefer charity and vintage shops. Yes, so of course, buying a second-hand piece of clothing is almost always going to be preferable to buying a new piece of clothing, even if that new piece of clothing has been produced in the most sustainable, organic, lovely way you can think of. Just reusing the things you already have or borrowing something off a friend or something is I think, always preferable. Excuse me. So Nicola's also put something in the chat about Boohoo's new appointment to try and address issues with supply chain. Apparently this news only came out today. Amelia, you nodded there. Do you know what this is about?
I don't know that. I haven't caught up with the news today,
okay.
But I do know that Labour Behind the Label have got a campaign that they are running at the moment. So if anyone has time, go and have a look at their campaign, because they've done this amazing thing where they've created a mock Boohoo website, but they're basically calling them out on the wages that they pay their workers. Obviously, we had the big scandal earlier this year, so yeah, that's a worthy campaign to support. I think it's over this weekend, or it might be next week. But either way, it's a worthy.
Okay, great. Another one from Nicola is about greenwashing. So the idea of brands, companies, all sorts of things who have cottoned onto the fact, cotton, that's a pun, have realized that appearing to be very good for the environment is very good for their brand image, but they're actually not improving their practices at all. Are you aware of any big abusers of this kind of practice, or are there red flags that people should be looking out for to avoid greenwashing?
I think, for me, it's the high street brands are going to be, and supermarkets, which are going to be immediately the ones to watch out for, because supermarkets, I think, potentially are, although I hate making statements like this because I'm always worried I'm going to get caught out, but I think supermarkets are the worst in terms of their track record. They are the worst. So, George and Tu and all those ranges that they have in supermarkets are terrible. And the high street brands are now trying to shift in a different direction because they're suddenly cottoning on to consumer demand changing. And I have a very skeptical view of that, even if they're making inroads into becoming more sustainable, until the full range is sustainable. Just having a sustainable range is basically neither here nor there. Your impact overall is still so negative that you can't, that your conscious range or whatever is going to be neither here nor there. So I think the first thing is what you want to watch out for is those big high street brands that are now making really bold claims. And I would just ask them questions, whether it's directly or through social channels. Keep pressing them on that information and go for the ones that are really transparent, the ones that are not just saying, hey, we're doing this, but they're telling you how and why, where their factories are, what percentages of which fiber they're using, where it comes from, which country does the fiber come from, where is it processed, etc. All that information, the more information they willingly voluntarily give you without you needing to ask, the more it doesn't necessarily mean it's an immediate tick, but it's like my trust in them just sort of creeps up incrementally the more information they give without me having to ask.
Yeah, fantastic. The news story about Boohoo, by the way, they've apparently appointed a former High Court judge to investigate the ethics of their supply chain. So we'll see what comes of that, I suppose. More questions. What else have we got? I once resuscitated around £500 worth of clothes by spending a day hemming, buttoning and fixing 17 different items. Well done, Julie. That sounds like a very productive afternoon. And yes, we'll bring that up in a second. Caroline points out that the Japanese treat repairs as an art, doesn't have to be invisible mending. Yeah, I wonder, is that going to be the new trend for at some point, having really obvious stitching marks on the outside of your clothing, just to say, yeah, I fixed this myself? Because if so, I might try it, because then I'll look cool for the first time in my life.
I think it is massively on trend at the moment, and I think, is it called, it's one is shibori and one's boro, I can't remember the names, but I think it is a massive and growing trend, visible mending, which is awesome because it's so much easier to do. And it's easier for anyone to do as well. I'm really cack-handed when it comes to sewing, even though I've been doing it for years. I'm terrible. But even I can get my son's worn knees and his trousers and whack a needle and some thread through it enough to hold it together. So yes.
We've got 2 more questions in chat, so that'll pretty much take us to past. So unless anyone else has got anything really burning they want to bring up before we close this down, I'll probably just have these last 2. So the first one is Liocell really green? And she's put a question mark after Liocell, so Julie doesn't seem convinced that that's the question. Do we know what that is? Babs, are you shaking your head because you don't know, or because you know it isn't?
So it's a huge thing. So you've got man-made fibres, and you've got natural fibres, and then you've got synthetic fibres. And so this fabric comes into the man-made fibres. It's made from natural materials, but it's been processed in a man-made way. It's not just completely natural in the same way that like cotton or linen just is what it is. So you'll have like a tree pulp or some kind of plant pulp that's then processed with a highly toxic chemical process to ret it and to transform it into threads, so it can then be spun and woven into bolts of fabric. And often with these ones, they also have a lot of stretch elastin put into them. They're used for yoga wear and this kind of stuff, active wear. And it is a huge greenwashing scam, because like there's nothing ecological about using highly toxic processes to transform fiber into something that, that's suitable for stretch wear. And it's often called a closed loop system. So they're saying that the plant matter will go into this kind of container, and it will be processed with these chemicals, but when it comes out the other side, none of the chemicals will come out with it. You might have tiny traces, and the fact that they say that there's none in your actual clothing means that it's sustainable. But I mean, it's ridiculous, because obviously that's impossible for there to not be any of that material that it's been drenched in left in the actual garments. Obviously there's going to be trace amounts, and that will leach into your skin, and it will offset into the atmosphere and end up somewhere in nature. And what about that box of toxic chemical stuff? Like, how was that made? What's going to happen to that when they stop using it? This is not a sustainable process. So, you know, Tencel and, you know, all these different horrible man-made fibres, there's nothing sustainable about them. It's a huge greenwashing scam.
Okay, that's again a really thorough answer. Thank you for that. Last question. Oh, go on. Sorry, Amelia. Go ahead.
Sorry, there's a bit of a delay. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. Also, everything, just to add a tiny bit on the end of what Babs is saying, is that also when you, especially with tree pulp, which I think a lot of Tencel, etc. is made from, is like, what impact is that having on the landscape and habitats as well when you're using so much, it's not necessarily like cotton or linen where you can do mixed cropping, but I think when you're doing massive plantations of eucalyptus, I think, and I can't remember what the other one is, Tencel, but that has an impact on the land and on, you know, farming capabilities, you know, wildlife, biodiversity, etc.
Okay, great.
There's a lot of clear cutting that happens for these plantations to grow fabric for our clothes, and it's completely destroying biodiversity, which can't be offset or recovered ever.
Yeah, I feel like you may have answered that question so well, you've accidentally answered my next question already. But the final question I was going to end on is clothing everyone with natural fibres really the answer, when that would surely also have an impact on livestock and land use?
Well, I think it's not like we suddenly need to clothe everyone on the planet with an entire wardrobe. Because if you think about it, you know, there's a lot of clothing that exists already. Like we've been talking about, vintage secondhand is like the most sustainable approach. You know, use what already exists rather than producing more. And there's a stat, something like there's enough clothing and textiles in circulation already to clothe us globally for the next 10 generations. So we don't actually need any more. Wow. We don't need to suddenly be like, okay, everyone, we need to make all this clothing out of natural fibres to clothe everyone. We have plenty. We just need to have better resource management systems, and non-toxic ones at that.
Amelia, did you want to add anything to that?
I'm just nodding and echoing, yeah. I agree with everything she said.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic point. Yes, natural fibres are probably better than other man-made fibres and what have you. But at the same time, wearing the clothes you already have is still probably the best option. So
I would just add to that, like, you know, go for secondhand clothing, but do go for natural fibre secondhand clothing. And I mean, I always go for unbleached, undyed, and then dye it myself so I know that it's natural dyes in it. But, you know, if you can't do that, at least have natural fibres, because anything that you buy, even secondhand, and when it goes into the washing machine, it's going to break down. There'll be particles coming off it and going into water systems that end up in rivers and oceans and destroy marine life. You know, you can put a filter on your washing machine to catch these microparticles, and that's something, but it's better if you can just really reduce the amount of synthetics that are going into your laundry. And also, it's not just laundry, like there's a lot of microplastic and microfiber offsetting from our clothes just from wearing them, which the stat shows is equal to, if not more than, the amount that is shed in the laundry cycle. So it's huge.
I think, excuse me, I think, I don't know if Nikki's still in the chat, but she recently bought a guppy bag or something. It's like a bag you put your clothes in that then goes inside the washing machine, and that's supposed to catch the microfibers. I think it's called a guppy bag or something. Julie might know if she pops up in chat or anything. But there is a bag out there. I think that's what it's called. But yes, if you're interested in something like that, I'm sure bag to catch microfibers in washing machine, give it a search and something will probably come up. But yeah, I think that's probably all the questions we have. Thank you both so much for this. This was a really interesting talk. and yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I'll give you both one last word if you like. Babs, do you want to just give yourself another quick plug?
Just to say thanks so much for the conversation. It's really great that this is being talked about in this place, and I'm really excited about the getting more trees in Bristol. One of my favourite things. And if anyone does want to buy something that's completely natural and locally made and completely biodegradable, then you know where to come.
Great. It's called a Guppy Friend Bag. I was close. Amelia, what can we do between now and April to plan our amazing fashion events?
Excuse me. Follow us. Our main sort of engagement channel at the moment is Instagram, which is just unfortunately the way things are these days. But also we've got a newsletter on our website is sustainablefashionweek.uk. Instagram is sustainablefashionweek_UK. And give us a follow, join our newsletter. We're launching a crowdfunder next week to raise funds for the event so we can pay all our contributors who are joining us for the hub. Come and donate if you fancy it, but also everyone is welcome to participate and be involved. So please, if there's anything you want to do, even if it's a close swap with your street, that is as relevant as anything else, and we'd love you all to be involved. I'm sure we can figure something out. If we're allowed back in the library by April, we'll be doing something. If we're allowed back upstairs at the Kensington Arms, we'll figure something out, and we'll be in touch to let you know. Yeah, just from us, we've got our last talk of the year. It's going to be a fun one. I'm probably going to drink. It's going to be about trees. My mum's going to talk. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fine. How to get more trees for Bristol, tickets on Eventbrite, or just text me and I'll send you a link. Check out all of our wonderful things, our websites, our things. Please do go to paypal.me/Clifton Climate Action. All donations are hugely appreciated, even if it's just £2, £3, £5, £6, whatever it is, whatever you think tonight's talk was worth. The money will be split evenly between the two groups and will allow us to keep doing wonderful stuff like this. So I hope tonight has been useful. And as always, the last thing I have to remember to say is to follow Clifton Climate Action on Instagram, because Nicola never lets me forget. Clifton Climate Act. She's doing great stuff. And then go follow everybody else. Because follow everyone on Instagram. It makes them feel good.